Welcome to NCIX Tech Tips. Today's episode is all about the Benq W1070. This is a 1080p projector that is capable of throwing out a 200-inch plus diagonal screen. It is 3D ready. Yes, 1080p, 3D, and last but not least, it is at or under $1,000. Crazy! Now, resolutions and sizes are interesting, but unless you're going to get a bright, high-contrast image that looks fantastic, then it's totally meaningless. So, it's got a Texas Instruments Dark Chip 3 processor in here. It's capable of producing up to 2,000 lumens of brightness, which means that even in a non-ideal scenario, you'll be able to get a very good image, as long as you don't go completely unreasonable in terms of your screen size. It also has some pretty nifty power-saving functions to go along with all this other stuff. So part of how it achieves the 10,000 to 1 contrast ratio that it does is by dynamically adjusting the lamp brightness depending on the kind of scene you're looking at. One other cool thing is their Smart Eco technology. Smart Eco technology is a couple of different things. So that's that dynamic lamp adjustment, and it's also what's called Eco Blank. Eco Blank can be activated either with a button press on the remote or automatically after it detects 3 minutes of no input signal, which will save you up to 70% of your lamp power when you walk away from your projector and forget about it. The W1070 also supports a wide variety of 3D inputs, including multiple resolutions and different 3D standards, including side-by-side, frame sequential, and frame packing, depending on what kind of device you want to feed the 3D signal to it with. Now, when it comes to controls and connectivity, we've got the usual stuff with a couple of twists. So on the remote itself, we've got power, info, menu, as well as your navigation, your source select, your Eco Blank button, which is cool. That's that one that puts it in power saving mode. Volume control. It does have built-in speakers, although let's face it, if you're buying a $1,000 projector, you better be buying some sweet speakers to go along with it, as well as all bunch of dedicated buttons for things like digital zoom, brightness, contrast, color tint, and all kinds of cool stuff like that, including the 3D mode that it's using. On the projector itself, you've got a few of those buttons, you've got full menu navigation, you've also got your zoom and focus wheels and lens shift. This is a very cool feature that enables you to much more easily install the W1070. In addition to the fact that it's got the appropriate ceiling mount holes on the bottom of the unit, this makes installation a snap, because all you have to do, instead of aligning it with exactly where you need it to point at the wall, this is a multimedia projector. You can mount it to the ceiling, use lens shift to adjust the image to where you need it. It's vertical lens shift only, mind you guys, and voila, you're done. No distortion. Speaking of no distortion, it also supports auto Keystone, so you can use the built-in feet on the front and the back to adjust the levelness of your image, as well as the direction it's pointing to adjust the height. And the auto Keystone can adjust up to 20 degrees in either direction automatically just using the sensor that's built into the projector. Connectivity on the back is where things start to get a little bit interesting. You have a very wide variety of different inputs, including composite, component, S-video, VGA, and dual HDMI ports. This allows you, without even adding an additional receiver, to have up to 2 inputs. So for example, you wanted to use this guy for, hey, games with your computer. You wanted to plug an HDMI in there. 3D games, mind you, with Nvidia 3D TV Play, more on that later. And you could have another one for, say, for example, your 3D Blu-ray player. You can have them both connected at the same time and just use the source select in order to change which one you're using at any given moment. Nvidia 3D TV Play is a driver-enabled feature that is different from Nvidia 3D Vision in a couple of key ways. So number one is you're not going to use Nvidia 3D glasses. You're going to use the 3D glasses that go with the display you purchased. For example, a Samsung 3D TV, you'd use your Samsung glasses. For this Benq projector, I'm going to use Benq glasses. Number two is that it doesn't necessarily support all the same resolutions and all of the same refresh rates that are supported by 3D Vision ready displays. So a 3D Vision ready display might do 1080p at 60 Hz, 60 FPS per eye, which is great for gaming, but movies don't come in that format anyway, whereas a 3D TV Play-enabled device, such as the W1070, supports 1080p at 24 FPS per eye, which is fine for movies, but only 720p at 60 FPS per eye, which is optimal for gaming. So you have to decide if that trade-off is worth it for you. However, at this time, due to the bandwidth limitations of HDMI, there's not much that anyone can do to enable 1080p 60 Hz on a projector unless they implemented a DVI or DisplayPort port. So what do you need? You need a GeForce GPU, at least in the last few generations, so GTX 200 series and up. You need the driver, which comes for free if you're already an Nvidia 3D Vision user. So if you have one of these IR emitters, you can install it for nothing. Otherwise, you pay 40 bucks, you install the driver, and you are pretty much ready to go. So we've got our setup going now. We've got our 3D Blu-ray player. We've got our Nvidia 3D Ready PC with a GTX 670. We're running Crysis 2. This is at 720p 60 Hz. So we're going to go ahead and show you guys some gameplay. Now I know 3D gameplay is not a whole lot of fun for you guys because you can't see the 3D effect without the 3D glasses, but I can assure you it's plenty fun for me. I gotta tell you guys, the 3D experience on a DLP projector is so much better than what you experience on an LCD monitor because LCD pixels don't necessarily shift fast enough from color to color and from image to image. You run into a situation where you have a lot of crosstalk where the left image shows up a little bit as a ghost in the right eye and the other way around. With DLP, you do not run into that at all. The images are clearly separated and it looks absolutely outstanding. Now, if 3D is not your thing for gaming, you can use it for 3D movies and switch to 2D for gaming. It runs at 1080p 60 Hz, so you're going to get the full HD experience. And it should be noted, guys, though, that the 3D that I was showing you before with that flickering, that was not present once I was wearing the glasses and not looking at it through a camera. The reason that that shows up is because of the difference in the capture frame rate of the camera and the output frame rate of the projector itself. Stay tuned and we're going to show you guys how easy it is to switch between playing 3D games or 2D games or whatever kind of games you want and watching 3D Blu-ray movies in HD. Now let's say you're done with your 3D games, you want to watch a 3D movie. I mentioned how simple it is to go source, HDMI 2, and now we can watch movies on our 3D Blu-ray player. Look at that, it's running in 3D already. I didn't even have to do anything. I hope you guys have enjoyed today's episode about the W1070 from Benq. Don't forget to subscribe to NCIX Tech Tips, and I think if it's all the same to you guys, I'm gonna call it a night now and watch myself a movie in 3D.